Yeah, here we go now, baby. We are right back into the action. Welcome to the Monday edition of Before You Bet right here on the Covers YouTube channel. Make sure you smash that subscribe button right down there. So very pleased to announce that I got back to my winning ways there on Friday. So once again, we are coming off of another winning show on Friday. So going to try to bring that winning energy into tonight. A lot to get into here. Of course, Monday Night Football. We have the NBA in-season tournament quarterfinals, a couple of bets there, and a lot to discuss in the world of college football with our guy, Brad Powers. Quick announcement, though. A little under the weather here today. Not exactly a labor-intensive position that I have here covered, so we will try to get through and hopefully find you guys some winners. So let's start like we always do on Monday. Let's bring in my first guest, my guy, Jason Logan. We call him J-Lo around here. So J-Lo, another NFL week almost in the can. How did you make out yesterday?
Not well. Hit a couple. Your Dolphins did me right on the team total. Had a couple of bets come through with the Lions. They hung on, which was good. But Sunday Night Football was a mess. Some of those later games were a mess. Hoping to get right here on Monday night.
Foreign territory for me as a Dolphins fan. They are in first place in the AFC right now. Will they be able to maintain that? It's going to be difficult. They have the Cowboys, Bills, and Ravens, but the 4 of their 5 remaining games are at home. So, a decent shot there. If they can lock up that top overall seed and home field advantage in the playoffs, that will be massive for them. Also, foreign territory for a Dolphins fan this season, turning off their games early because they're winning. I used to turn off their games early because they were getting their ass kicked so badly, but now they're winning by so much, I can just turn the games off. So it's good to see. Okay, so 4 total bets here for Monday Night Football between you and I. I will get us started with the Jaguars to cover the first half spread, -6.5. So check out the Jags in the first half this season, 9-2 against the spread, thanks to allowing just 6.6 first half points per game. That's the second best mark in the NFL. The Bengals, meanwhile, their defense is getting absolutely lit up on the road. They're allowing 16.3 first half points on the road. That's 28th in the NFL. And what will the path to victory for this bet be? I think it will come on third down, where the Jags have a massive edge. 4th and third down defense for the Jaguars versus 25th and third down offense for the Cincinnati Bengals. Just 28.5% third down conversion over their last 3 games. The Bengals also really bad on third down defense. So Jaguars to cover that first half spread. J-Lo, what do we got for your first bet?
Sure. I'm going to go with Jamar Chase to go over his receiving yard total. This one was bouncing between like 54 and 57. Right now, 55.5 over -115 is kind of the better price out there. Chase, despite the Bengals situation right now and not having Joe Burrow, some positive stuff coming out this week. He was super, super happy to see T. Higgins back at practice because it's going to open things up for him. He's faced constant double teams with Higgins out. Now it spreads out the secondary. He's going to see some one-on-ones as well, too. And he was speaking the praises of Jake Browning, the backup quarterback who's stepping in for Joe Burrow, talking about how he knows all the plays, how they had a great rapport because he got all the summer reps and the preseason reps when Burrow hit his calf. And Chase is one of these wide receivers that kind of can come and play no matter who's throwing him the ball. And we see his receiving yard props taking like a dive of 20 yards less with him out. I just think it's far too much. And then if you look at the player projections for tonight, all very positive for Chase. He had 81 yards last week. His projections for Monday Night Football have a ceiling of 92 yards. Most of the models are over 60 yards here. My number was just under 72. So I see Jamar Chase getting it done. He's going to be that popular target again tonight. So I like him to go over 55.5 yards receiving.
Okay, my favorite prop for the game, I'm going to go with Chase's teammate, Joe Mixon, to go over his receiving yard total of 19.5 yards. So this is a major weakness for the Jaguars defense. They struggle against running backs in the pass game. They're allowing 49.5 yards per game to running backs. That's one of the worst marks in the NFL. He's been pretty hot. He's topped this in 5 of his last 6. He's gotten into the 30s in 3 of his last 4 games. And take the heat off Brown in here. Check it down. Jags are pretty strong against the run, so I think some checkdowns would be a pretty good option for some short yardage plays. especially if you consider how bad the Jaguars are against running backs in the pass game. So Mixon to go over his receiving yard total. J-Lo, bring it home. Your final bet for Monday Night Football here.
All right, we'll go to the Jaguars because this is a big spread and a game that looks like they're going to be able to move the change with these. I'm going to go Christian Kirk over his longest reception of 20.5 minus 120 down. Kirk, he's had receptions of 25 plus yards in 9 of his last 10 games. The lone game in which he didn't have one of those 25 plus, he had a 20-yard gain in that. So he's hitting some home runs here. He leads the team in targets, so he's going to have a ton of touches to pull this off. But also Zay Jones back in the lineup. Everyone benefits when he's back in the lineup. He's a speedy guy that stretches the defense. He stretches the coverage, and it's allowed Christian Kirk to do some damage underneath. And then they're taking on a Bengals defense that has allowed the most explosive plays, 25 yards or more on the season, the second most passing plays of 25 yards or more as well, too. So a good situation for him coming into this game. So I like him to go over 20.5 yards for his longest reception.
Okay, Luke Murphy in the chat weighing in. He likes Ingram to have a big game tonight. He says, but always hard to pick which receiver balls out for the Jags since they have so many.
And I like that Ingram. I like the Ingram over receptions. I bet that earlier, but now it's at the point where I don't want to play. It's like 4.5, almost minus 150 now. I know his yardage totals were a popular pick as well too. So yeah, Ingram's been a guy, but now the price has just kind of been too far gone on him.
Value appears to be out the window on that one. Okay, guys, if you're watching right now on YouTube, smash that like button. Let us know that you like the show. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel here, the Covers YouTube channel, and hop into that live chat. Let us know what your best bets are for tonight, whether it be the NFL or tonight's NBA games, and let us know why. J-Lo, now let's get into one of our favorite games to play around here. Your take on my take. I will give you my take, and then you can give me your take on my take. I have a lot of takes. Some of these takes are bad. Some of the takes some takes are god awful. Actually, I got called out by what is it? Cold Takes Exposed, that account on Twitter.
Oh no!
I did a tweet last week after the Eagles beat the Bills in overtime, and I said there's not a team in the NFL that comes into Philadelphia and wins a game. Yeah, people let me hear it.
Didn't just win that one. They absolutely rolled Philly. That was a mess. And it looked like it was going to be kind of Philly's game in that first quarter. They did a great job limiting them, kind of played that methodical pace game, and then it all went to shit in the second quarter, that's for sure.
Okay, let me tee you up for this one. Then I got to log out and log back in. My microphone a little scratchy here, they're saying. So my first take, and it's based on that game. My first take is that we shouldn't downgrade the Eagles very much at all for that loss. Yes, they got to absolutely hand it to them on their home field, but that was an awful scheduling spot, an awful situation for the Eagles. They were coming off of back-to-back games where they went down to the wire with the Cowboys, Chiefs, and Bills, and they won all 3 of those games. They're coming off a game with the Bills where the defense was on the field for 92 plays. Nothing else left in the tank. I think that's pretty acceptable. 49ers, meanwhile, 3 extra days rest after playing on Thanksgiving. I think that game had a lot more meaning to them. Now, you can upgrade the 49ers based on that, but I don't think we should downgrade the Eagles based on that loss. What do you think of that?
Yeah, well, a good rule of thumb that has been passed along to me in the years of betting on sports is no team is never as bad as their worst loss, and no team is never as good as their best win. So kind of treat those highs and lows with a little bit of speculation, I guess. But it does make me wonder about their defense, however. Like I said, did a great job in the first quarter, limiting things for San Francisco, and then the levees broke, and they could not stop San Francisco, and the Niners were basically getting whatever they wanted, moving the ball on the ground, moving the ball with the short passes, picking up the first downs. It makes me wonder about this Eagles defense. And then we look at this total for this week. They played Dallas. It's a 50-plus point total, which is rare air now in this season of unders. I mean, this is the week in which we see a historic under possibly between that Thursday night game. But we've only had 10 totals close at 50 or more yards this season. That's compared to 25 last season. It compares to 56 in 2021. So if this is a 50-point total, it's definitely there for a reason. 2 high-powered offenses, but that game against San Francisco does make me worry about the I won't say the validity of the Eagles defense because they have a very good defense, but just, where we're ranking their defense right now, because they were just blown up on Sunday.
How's the audio sound? Check,
Much
check,
better.
check. 1 2 1 2. We're okay.
Sounded great. Yep.
Okay. Take number 2. Let me see here. All good now, producer Mick. Take number 2. I don't want to hear about how great this Browns defense is. The Browns defense is completely and totally overrated.
Ooh.
Check them out on the road this season. They've had games where they allowed 36 yesterday to the Rams, 29 to the Broncos, 31 to the Ravens. They allowed 38 points to the Colts. They ranked 31st in points allowed on the road, 27th in yards allowed per play on the road. Meanwhile, their numbers at home are much, much better, but look at the teams they played at home. They had an injured Joe Burrow, the Tennessee Titans. They had that sloppy, rainy, windy game versus the 49ers, and Clayton Tune and the Cardinals came into town. So what do you think of that take, that this Browns defense is completely overrated?
Yeah, there's definitely something there with those home and away splits, because they're giving up less than 11 at home and then almost 31 on the road. And then you look at their schedule too, and they played 4 of the first 5 games at home this season, and that's where they really beefed up their defensive numbers. Now you got to think too, as well. There's been some pretty bad quarterback play. If you look at the kind of like the third down conversions and being able to stay on the field, that's an issue that Cleveland has had, especially since Deshaun Watson went down as well too. I know their TOP stats are a bit skewed because they had so heavy TOP early in the season, but this is a defense that is having to do its share of the heavy lifting. And if you kind of look through that first 5 games, they had an incredible EPA allowed per play metric. If you look at them past that 5-game range, they're number 6 in EPA allowed. And if you look at their last 3 games, they're down to 19th. So definitely there's something going on there. I think maybe, things change over the course of the season. I think the problems on offense also bleed into this too, because the defense starting to show some cracks.
Browns not to make the playoffs plus 120, by the way. I think they could be in a little bit of trouble. I mean, how many quarterbacks, Flacco's their 4th starter of the season? Yep. I think that could catch up to them here. Okay, take number 3, my final take. And I got the numbers to back it up. This isn't very debatable at all. The Patriots offense was much better when Matt Patricia was their offensive coordinator. This is absolutely insane. Points per game. They are last in the NFL with 12.3 points per game. Last year, they averaged 21.4 points per game. Yards per play, they are 28th in the NFL this season. Last year, not great, but they were 18th. 10 full spots ahead of where they are this year. They've been shut out on their home field twice. Absolutely disgraceful. They've scored 13 points in their last 3 games. Yeah. Not exactly going up against great defenses either. The Colts, Giants, and Chargers. So Bill O'Brien just doing an awful job. I know he doesn't have a whole lot to work with here, but neither did Matt Patricia last year. Yeah. So what do you think of that? That the Patriots were better with Matt Patricia as the offensive coordinator.
This is like comparing dog poop to cat poop, and which you would want to step in, because I don't think neither are the right choice. Cats are gross. But yeah, I mean, if you want to go to the all holy EPA per play metric as well too, last year they were 27th in that metric at this point in the season. This year, 30th and well off the pace of last year. Like you said, I don't think there's the talent there. And I came into the season pretty low on the Patriots. I said they had the least talented roster in the NFL. The skill positions are bad. Ramondre Stevenson looks like he's going to miss this Thursday game as well too. And we're seeing this historically low total sitting as low as 30. I don't think you could put Kyle Shanahan in the coordinator spot, and I don't think he's getting 2 touchdowns out of this team right now. So you're like I said, cat poop, dog poop. It doesn't matter. It's all poopy. It's all poopy.
Yeah, it's just absolutely brutal stuff. So let's take a look ahead to the week coming up. You referenced that Thursday night football game. That game has baseball score written all over it. Trubisky coming in at quarterback here. And we just talked about the Patriots offense. So some look aheads that I have my eye on. I haven't placed these bets yet, but that look good to me. Detroit, Chicago. I like the over 43.5 for that. Seahawks plus 11.5. versus the 49ers. Maybe a little bit of a letdown spot for the 49ers if you want to make that case, but I think it's too many points. 11.5. The Seahawks just gave the Cowboys a really good game. Broncos +3 against the Chargers. And I like the Chiefs -3 on their home field against the Buffalo Bills. They bounced back pretty good, 18-3 after a loss with Mahomes as the starter there for Kansas City. So I think we see them bounce back. Anything catch your eye for the upcoming week there, J-Lo?
Yeah, the bet now spread was Denver +3, and we've seen this tick down to 2.5 at a lot of places. Denver had a bad first half against Houston yesterday, but played much better in the second half. Actually did something with the football, not like the Chargers. And then Denver has a pretty good defense as well too. But for me, I don't agree on the Lions and Chicago game. I'm not running out to bet the over in this one. And I'll tell you why. This is actually going to be a rare outdoor game for Detroit. It's their first outdoor game since week 7. And if we look at the 5 games since, it's all been indoors. So they've scored a ton of points. They've put up like 31 points per game. They've given up 27 points per game in that stretch as well too, but all coming indoor, fast track. If you look at the extended forecast, and maybe this holds up, maybe it doesn't, but we're looking at some winter weather for Chicago, potential snow and rain and wind. And then Jared Goff, notoriously not a great starting quarterback when outside. His completion percentage dips down to 62.5%. He's thrown an interception in 77% of his outdoor games, compared to just under 60% of his indoor games. So, and then I believe the Chicago defense is they've been one of the better defenses in the second half of the season. I'm not being skewed by what we saw on Thanksgiving. I think this one could be a little lower scoring. So I like the under in that, or at least the Detroit under team total. And the other one that I do like is the under for your Dolphins and the Titans. And that's the Monday Night Football game. And the reason I like this one is, one, the Titans are just terrible offensively on the road. Like, you look at their splits between home and road, and it's embarrassing. They're bad. And then you have a rookie quarterback trying to navigate this Vic Fangio defense, which is really playing well. What they've given up.
Sir.
Yeah, they've given up 13, and 15. Yeah, they haven't played, powerful passing attacks here, but this defense is really starting to find its form. It ranks number 1 in EPA allowed per play since week 8. And then Tennessee's offense, when it is, moving the ball, it's one of the more methodical out there in terms of seconds per play. It's low in points per play as well too. So, and then also to the Dolphins' recent score outputs, they're a bit skewed because your defense has been scoring some touchdowns. So
2 pick sixes.
Yeah. So that offensive output hasn't necessarily been offensive. So this one is as high as 47 right now. I do like the under at that high number. Most places sitting 46.5.
Okay, there you have it. Yeah, it looks like
potential non-Miami weather for this one too. Of course, extended forecast is still a few days out from Monday, but it may potentially rain and wind for Miami on that Monday nighter.
Yeah, it could be an ugly one then. So yeah, make sure you keep your eyes on the weather for next week's Monday Night Football game between the Dolphins, my Miami Dolphins, and the Tennessee Titans. Okay, J-Lo, we will leave it at that. Thanks again for joining us. Best of luck with those bets tonight, and we will catch you later on in the week for the Sharp 600.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Joe. Good luck.
Yes, sir. The man right there. Okay, let us shift gears. I'm very curious to pick this guy's brain about a couple things here. Let's go down to sunny Las Vegas. Our guy, Brad Powers. Brad, how you making out?
Doing better than the players, coaches, and fans of a certain program in Florida in that panhandle. So at least I got that going for me.
Okay, so let's discuss that. Let's get into it. What are your thoughts on the 4 teams that got into the college football playoff? And did Florida State essentially just get completely screwed over and maybe punished because their quarterback got injured?
Yeah, I think absolutely they did. I mean, I thought it was a travesty, at least compared to what college football has been about almost, in the history of the sport. I mean, it's, they started using some terms last week as far as narratives in the media talking about, our job is to get the best teams in, not necessarily the most deserving. That's never been the case, as far as getting the best teams. Otherwise, you just go to a Vegas point spread. Oh, who would be favored over who? and let's go ahead and put the best teams in. No, you started hearing some narratives that most deserving doesn't matter. So what was I completely surprised that Florida State got left out? No. But man, I mean, how do you tell a team that wins every single game this season in a Power 5 conference, goes unbeaten, and you had them ranked 4th? They cover a point spread. They're actually a 1-point underdog to Louisville. They win a game by 10. They absolutely dominate Louisville's offense. And you tell them, nope, that's not good enough. Let's drop you. And we're dropping you because of the quarterback injury from a couple games ago, despite the fact you won on the road against Florida in a tough spot against your rival. You don't believe me? Ask Alabama on the road against their rival. They needed a 4th and 31 to beat Auburn against a 6-6 Auburn team. So it didn't sit well with me. Now, with that being said, I mean, obviously, I think Florida State deserved to be in. Are they one of the 4 best teams? No, they're not even one of the 10 best teams in the country. I mean, Florida State, I mean, obviously, you're seeing it right now. They're a 2-touchdown underdog against Georgia. And speaking of Georgia, if it was truly about getting the best teams in, Joe, Georgia be in. I mean, come on, get Washington out of there. Washington was just a 10-point underdog. Who cares? Results don't matter. I know they beat Oregon, but whatever. I mean, let's get the very best in. Let's put Georgia in. But they didn't. My tweet was this: that got a lot of play in the market. They didn't get the 4 best teams in. They didn't get the 4 most deserving teams in. So what the hell did they do?
So it's such an awesome debate. I love it. I'm a bit of a casual when it comes to college football, and there's great arguments for each side. But where do you stand on the argument that you need to include somebody from the SEC?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about money, I mean, I guess you do. I mean, because obviously college football is more of a TV show than it is a sport at this point. But yeah, I mean, if you want to make the most money, yeah, you got to have the SEC in. Did I need to see it this year? No, I don't even think the SEC is the mighty SEC, at least in this one particular season. I don't care what they did in 2010 or 2006 or 2016. This year, I mean, let's just look at the ACC head-to-head against the SEC. The ACC had a winning record against SEC teams this year. So no, I don't necessarily, me personally, as a college football fan, I don't need to see the SEC in every year. Now, as a better and a power rater, obviously, average team power rating, SEC, when you got teams like LSU, Georgia, Alabama, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, you go right down the line, Missouri. Obviously, as a better, you need to have the SEC in there if you really want to get the best teams in.
So I put this out on Twitter yesterday. I got some interesting responses to it. I'm interested to know what you would think. So it came down to Alabama and Florida State, essentially. Alabama gets the nod. If these 2 teams played next week on a neutral field, how much would Alabama be favored by?
Yeah, Alabama would be favored by 10.5. So I know people are going to say, well, that means the committee got the right team in. I mean, yeah. Alabama 10.5 over Florida State. I hear you. I get that. But Georgia would be still favored over Alabama, even though Alabama just beat them. So, I mean, do you want to play that game? Who would be favored over who? I don't know. So, yeah, we're going to probably get more competitive semifinals. Kudos to that. But, again, I just thought it was a travesty what they did to the Florida State players and coaches.
Okay, so let's take a look at the futures odds here to win the national championship. Obviously, Michigan's favorite plus 180, followed by Alabama plus 200, Texas plus 260, Washington plus 700. Outside of Michigan, anyone worth a bet to win the national championship?
Yeah, I'm always going to recommend. I think if you shop accordingly as far as the money line roll over, bet Texas or whatever team on the money line, one game, take those winnings, roll it over to the next game. But if you were looking, you don't want to do that. And I know a lot of people want to bet a little to win a lot and not a lot to win a little. I would recommend Texas. Let's start off just basic math. I mean, you're looking at the Michigan-Alabama game, basically a coin flip. Michigan a slight favorite at 1.5. You got Texas favored by 4. So Texas, of the 4 teams, if you're going off of the point spread, Texas is the most likely at least to get to the national championship game. And even if that game, whether they play in Alabama or Michigan, you're talking about a pretty short point spread in that regard. They should be confident they already beat Alabama on the road this year. So if I was making one bet in the futures market, it'd be Texas.
Okay, speaking of Texas, we have a best bet to give out here. We're going to have plenty throughout bowl season, but let's talk about Texas here. Fresh off a dominant victory over Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship. They're favored by 4 over Washington. They pulled things out over Oregon in the Pac-12 championship. Who do you like in this game? I'm guessing you're going to say Texas.
I am going to say Texas. So, I mean, that kind of coincides with why I'd bet them in the future markets. So I like them obviously to win. I like them to cover, obviously, in this situation. I'm going to lay the 4 here. So what am I seeing value? Well, I'll just go back to Washington's performance against Oregon, or at least what the perception was of Washington going into that game. 10-point underdog and a neutral site against Oregon. And now a 4-point underdog against Texas. I mean, if I saw Oregon favored by 6 over Texas, I'd have a game of the year bet on Texas catching that type of number. So I thought Washington probably was upgraded too much for the performance against Oregon. It was a great performance. Kudos for them. But here's what I'm still seeing, Joe. I see a Washington team that now has won 9 consecutive games by 10 points or less. Change any couple plays. This is a 2-loss type of team. And now they're facing a Texas defensive front. That defensive line for Texas is the best Washington's seen all year. And Texas, I mean, obviously is explosive as any offense in the country. And I know they dealt with an injury to Xavier Worthy, their wide receiver, but I'll take Sarkisian's word for it. He says he'll be ready to go by the time this game's played. So I like Texas here. I think they're peaking at the right time, and over a larger sample size is clearly the better team than Washington.
Okay, Brad, before we let you go, bowl season gets kicked off here in, 12 days or so. Of course, we have Army-Navy coming up this weekend. We're going to discuss that game on Thursday's show, but it's a completely different animal, bowl season, compared to the regular season. So any general tips, advice you might have for the casual bettor out there when it comes to betting on these bowl season games?
Yeah, I'm a big power ratings guy, but I'm here to tell you they really don't matter. You could throw them out. It could be a base and you kind of get an idea, but there's so many differences between the bowl season and the regular season. So starting off with that, well, what's different? I think it basically comes down to motivation. And if you can handicap that accordingly, I think you can get in front of some major line moves. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, how do you handicap motivation? Well, we have now something that we can, properly, as far as a big data point on how we can price motivation. It's called the transfer portal. And if you're following that, you can kind of get a gist on whether or not a team wants to be there or not. So I'll give you an example. We're already seeing it in the marketplace right now. Ohio State lost their all-everything game against Michigan. It's national championship or bust for them. They're not playing in the playoffs this year, and now they're playing against a good quality Missouri team. So what's happening? Their starting quarterback hit the transfer portal. Several other key players have hit the transfer portal. I'm guessing we're going to get a lot of NFL draft declarations for them, and none of those players are going to be playing. So we're going to have, forget one arm tied behind your back. We'll probably have an Ohio State team with both arms tied behind their back against Missouri. So that's what you're looking for, is to take advantage of those types of opportunities, and you can get in front of a 3, 6, 7. I've even seen 10-point line moves this time of year.
There we go. Yeah. A lot of player movement this time of year in college football. So some wise words from our guy, Brad, there. We will leave it at that, Brad, but thanks again for joining us, and best of luck with your handicapping here. I know there's an avalanche of bowl games to look into here, so we'll look forward to picks for those on upcoming shows, but we will catch you again on Thursday.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for having me, Joe.
Yes, sir. The man right there. Tell us how you really feel about the college football playoff, right? Good stuff from him. Let's move on to our final segment of today, where we will be covering the NBA. It is the in-season tournament. Is it the quarterfinals, John? I think it is. Looks like some pretty good games tonight. So are you fired up? You think these have more meaning for the players playing in these tonight?
Yeah, I think you're going to see some pretty crazy atmospheres, especially with the Pacers. They probably didn't expect to get out of the group, so it should be pretty exciting for their fan base.
Indeed, yeah, and a special announcement. Jon Metler is now the newest employee here at Cover, so I'm very happy to welcome you on board, John. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Excited to join the team. I need a Covers hat.
Yeah, we need to get you Covers. Is that the Detroit Tigers?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that.
Representing, the never-ending rebuild. So, no more Detroit Tigers talk on the show here till baseball season probably. But let's get into our best bets here for these in-season tournament quarterfinal games. I have a couple first half bets. I'll get us started. I'm going to take the Celtics to cover the first half spread, -3 versus the Pacers here. So the Celtics absolutely flying in the first half. The Pacers are drowning. Check out the Celtics. They are second in the NBA in first half point margin and first in first half EFG over the last 10 games. They come out very strong. The Pacers, meanwhile, 25th in first half point margin in that 10-game sample size. They shoot it pretty good, but they rank dead last in both opponent EFG percentage and points allowed per 100 possessions in the first half. So an enormous defensive gap favoring the Celtics here. They rank in the top 5 in both opponent EFG percentage and points allowed per 100 possessions in the opening half. And the Pacers playing some dirty defense. They're allowing a lot more free throws than the Celtics. This is a matchup between teams ranked 1st and 28th in opponent free throw attempt rate. And for what it's worth, these teams played earlier in the season. The Celtics had a 21-point lead at half in that game. They had 16 more free throw attempts as well. So Celtics to cover that first half number. John, you like a prop for this game. What are you betting on here?
Yeah, same game. I'm going Tyrese Halliburton under 27.5 points. It was available at -115 when we came on the air here. So a couple of things with Halliburton. One, he's a great player. He's honestly one of my favorite players in the NBA. So I'm not knocking the player here. He's awesome. It's just more specifically kind of the movement and his odds because of what he's been doing recently. So he's had 5 straight overs here. And he usually trades kind of like in that 21.5 to 23.5 range, but he's had 5 straight overs. But if you look at the teams, he's gone over on the Pistons, the Trailblazers, the Hawks. That game was crazy, lots of points. The Celtics are a much different team. So Halliburton was actually posted on Saturday. So he scored 44 points against the Heat last week. He was going to play them back to back. He was posted at 27.5 points. I was stoked. I was going to take the under in that game too, but he was out with an illness. So they come back Monday. If he would have went under in that game, maybe today we're looking at like 25.5, but it's back. They're going back to the 27.5. And against the Celtics, I just don't think that's the right price for the Celtics. The Celtics have 2 perimeter defenders who they can completely disrupt Halliburton's game. They can take him out of this game. Drew Holiday, specifically one of them. Halliburton has been vocal. He was on JJ Redick's podcast a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about Drew Holiday, and he was saying he's like one of those players, like at the point of attack, he's a nightmare. He's someone you like really think about when you're preparing for the game. And for Halliburton, he missed Saturday's game with illness. He has a respiratory infection. So on top of like the inflated total, you're facing a Celtics defense, Holiday, you're sick. It just all of it kind of screams under to me. Halliburton could still come out and have 25 points, 13 assists, and be like, great game for a guy who's sick. But I just think the 27.5 is a little too high considering all the circumstances and the opponent they're facing.
Okay, so fade that Halliburton point total. So the next game taking place out in Sacramento, I'm going to grab the New Orleans Pelicans to cover the first half spread there, plus 1.5. So they're a team that's coming out absolutely flying. They rank 1st in first half point margin over the last 10 games. These teams have played twice this season. The Pelicans have really had their number, especially in the first half. First half blowouts at 14-13. New Orleans playing much better defense than the Sacramento Kings. 4th versus 23rd in first half opponent EFG in that 10-game sample size. And expect to see the Pelicans on the free throw line a lot more here. 2nd in free throw attempt rate in the first half for New Orleans. 24th in opponent free throw attempt rate for the Kings in that same span. Hopefully it just takes a couple extra trips to the line here, and the Pelicans can take care of business for us. Okay, John, let the people know where they can find all your great work here on the NBA.
Yeah, I wrote, actually broke down the Celtics Pacers game this morning at covers.com, and I did some player props for the Pelicans and Kings games. So you can go check those out. They're both on the website.
Okay, yeah, awesome stuff from John. John, thanks again for joining us. We'll catch you again on Thursday. Best of luck with that bet tonight.
Sounds good. Go Pelicans and Celtics.
Let's go. Let's go Pelicans. Okay, if you're just tuning in, if you missed the top of the show, we can do a little recap of the bets there. I like the Jags to cover the first half spread. They're 9-2 in the first half. Their defense is great in the first half. The Bengals defense is awful in the first half. I like Joe Mixon to go over 19.5 receiving yards. And J-Lo, he's on Jamar Chase to go over his receiving yard total. And Kirk, longest reception over 20.5. Okay, we made her through. Like I said off the top of the show, not feeling my best today, but not exactly a very labor-intensive job here. So we made her through. Hopefully a couple winners there for you guys. If you like the show, let us know by simply hitting that like button right down there. Make sure you are subscribed to the Covers YouTube channel. Lots of great content here. We will leave it at that for today. Best of luck with those bets tonight, unless, of course, you're fading us. We will catch you again next time. Woo!